All right, I'm going to be a little handicapped. I realize in watching sermons that I use my hands more than I realize. So, you guys good if I start in the back? I really love this picture here. I know this is also the most dangerous time of day to talk after a heavy lunch. So, if I see people nodding, I'm going to move around here. But someone came to the church trying to sell us this photo, left it behind, didn't leave a card, and it's been around for like 5 years. So I have no way to return it, so at some point you claim ownership of it. But I think it's kind of cool. It gives you a sense of our church. I often talk about it being really the center of the county. You really get that vantage point when you see this. You can see the Rio there. You can see 270. We have probably one of the best physical locations for any church in the Synod because of where we are. But it also, I think, explains some reason why we can draw people who are from a distance. We're not a neighborhood church by any stretch of the imagination. So I'll move us along. So a little closer view. You saw that on the cover this week, but I want to just point out, these are the heating units that are in the process of being replaced as, not at this present moment, but could be tomorrow. But they're well in the works. 1978 heating units, heating and AC that covers this space. So here's where I wanted to kind of start us. Winnie the Pooh. I don't know if any of you were big Winnie the Pooh people. My kids were. Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude. And I've always loved that, the simplicity to that, but I always think that gratitude can really change our lives, can change the world around us, and certainly does an amazing amount of good for the church if we focus on it. One of the first events I went to as a pastor, fall of '96, there's a pastor speaking to a group of about 600 pastors. He looked at us and challenged us. He said, I challenge you every day when you wake up to spend 2 minutes a day in silence, solitude, and wrapped in gratitude. The person next to me said, shouldn't we spend a little more time than that? But I think his point was well made, that if we need to be intentional about it. And kind of the way I wanted to just begin is just spend maybe 60 seconds kind of in silence yourself and say to yourself, what are one thing or a couple things about this particular congregation you are grateful for? Just close your eyes. End of 60 seconds or so, I'll just offer a prayer, and then we'll kick in, and I promise we'll get to Shepherd's Hall stuff at the end. So. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, we give you thanks for you provide for us so abundantly. You provide us a wonderful community of faith to nurture and sustain us and to be a sign of encouragement and support in our lives. We thank you for this gathering of friends. We thank you for those who have paved the way for us and have blessed our lives. Help use this church as you have for many decades to continue to be a source of inspiration and sharing your good news in this community. We give you thanks this day. It's in your name we pray. Amen. I need to always begin, or at least I need to think. I begin with gratitude. I love this picture. Show it at every new member class, but I always give thanks for Pastor Dan Oravec, who is in the tie right next to me in this photo. What I remember about that too is we were both holding the cross at one point in this, and then at one point he just said, "No, I want you to be the only one holding it." At that point, but Dan served here. He was a founding pastor. He served here 34 years. The founding pastor, he was a pioneer. We talk about a trailblazer. I've talked about that in church 2 weeks ago. Dan certainly left a lot of blazes for other people, but kind of an entrepreneurial, creative guy, loved music. Social outreach was incredibly important to him. Just a very passionate man. And I would say I inherited a wonderful, strong congregation. And inheriting is a gift. It's not something you deserve. And from day one, I felt very, very, very privileged to be here. I still remain that way. But one of the things I think has helped Good Shepherd so much, why we are at today, is Dan kind of released in a sense, went into retirement. He provided tremendous encouragement behind the scenes. You always got the sense he was rooting for you. And anytime he showed up, he was rooting for us all. And for that, whenever that time comes where I depart, I want to make sure I do the very, very same thing. That's not going to be tomorrow, but who knows? The Lord may call me home. But it's kind of fun. You recognize this young guy here is about 5 inches taller than me now. So I have to believe there's something in me that believes Dan would be actually very excited about this campaign we're doing right now. This whole idea of building connections, reaching out in the community, bringing new people to Jesus, challenging the church to be more than it is, while taking care of some things around here, keeping our eyes open to the larger church. I just have to think he would be on board with that and excited for us. You'll notice I always refer to it as a hybrid campaign. I do that only in the sense to remind ourselves it's not just a capital physical improvement project. Ours from the get-go, we've said, is 25% to expand the mission of Good Shepherd as well as the Synod, and then 75% is for capital improvements. I always put the smaller amount of money on top because ultimately that's why we're here, is to grow the good news of Jesus. So we set an ambitious goal, which one reason I think Dan would be excited about that is 300 new connections over 3 years. And I don't think that means you stop. I think it means you just keep reaching out. And we know we live in a community where people move all the time, so continually seeking to reach out is important. So of that 25% amount of money, 90% stays at Good Shepherd for our additional staff and things we do to further our mission, and then we tithe to the Synod. So give you an example, in about, I think it was late August, we cleared the 100,000 for mission, which meant $10,000 has gone to the Synod in support. We've done some other things for the Synod as well, but that gives you a sense. And 75% of all money raised is for capital improvements. So I'll move us along here. So connecting people. We set out a year ago to say one of the things we needed was a connection coordinator, someone really focused on helping us reach out very, very intentionally to new people, and also just helping connect the people who come in the door on Sunday morning who are already members to get them more involved in the life of the church. And using the image of the Lego block, if someone can make 8 connections in that first year, the odds are that they're going to be here for the long haul. And I bet you everyone in the room is probably that case. You made friends quickly, and as a result, you're here for a long haul. Year 2, year 3, you've made more. Mary Jo, I think, was waiting a long time for this role. I didn't know we were going to create it, but she really feels called to this role. She owns the lobby every Sunday morning now. I think she knows everyone in the church are getting there, but let me just kind of spotlight. We're down a full-time pastor the last 2 months. In a joyful way, we give thanks for Kate being off, but this could be an absolutely overwhelming time for me had we not had Mary Jo on board, just working, cultivating this group of people. And we know there's a bunch of people ready in January when we have a new group. So I celebrate that. Other things we're planning to do is live stream our worship at some point. We're not there yet. We need to do some things. And also there will be enough money that we can either add more hours for some staff people, or we can create some additional staff roles to help us further mobilize the church. 28. So moving to the facility side of things, some of this but we really wanted to do some simple, small things right away that would have an impact. First impressions do matter, so we thought it doesn't cost that much. Sometimes people don't know where the main entrance to the church is. You would think it would be on the other side or the far end of the building. it's an issue we always deal with. The awning was relatively inexpensive, and people really seem to like that, and I really like it too. I think that was like $4,000 or $5,000. It was a lot of bang for the buck, if you will. The other thing is we put in a coat rack. That changes the world too, but if you think about it, we've had roaming coat racks for years. You never knew where they were going to be, so now we can direct people. It's a hospitality issue. You've noticed, we put greeters at the front door to open the door, kind of want to emphasize the open door treatment. And I think we looked smart in that God blew the fence down. And we were already planning to replace it, and like 2 weeks later it was going up. So we should have just pretended we were really, really sharp, but it was in the plan. So this summer and we know there were some who really wanted this room to be done right away. So I'll put that on the table. But we're going to do a much better job by having waited a year. We focused on I always refer to this as the ministry hub. The education wing is preschool meets here during the week in the lower level. Almost a lot of our Bible studies and AA, a lot of meetings occur in the education wing. So there's a boatload of activity that side of the building during the week. So in the upper level, if you've been down there, we created 2 additional double-sized classrooms. We always have a need for bigger spaces. We have some big Sunday school grades. So if you haven't been down there, it's worth roaming your way down there. Pastor Kate, you might recall, did not want the church to do a baby shower for her new child. They thought they had enough. The church rose to the occasion and, in a sense, in Luke's honor, her honor, furnished the nursery here. So we have a couple classrooms now that have LCD projectors and audio. So that's a blessing to our Sunday school. We're going to put an additional one in one of the adult rooms as well. So committee meeting, social ministry, council would have access to a projector that's not cluttered, that's actually really hidden into the ceiling. Music office was renovated. Janitorial space was created. I can give you a tour of that if you really want. But a big thing is it's in the men's part. It's in the men's room. So no one seems to be that excited about that one. Just quickly, a view of one of the double rooms. This is on the left-hand side as you go down. Stephen Ministry meets in this room. The quilters meet in this room. An example of some of the simple artwork that's gone up. We want every space down there to have Christian art, so it's very clear you're in a room where the story of Jesus is being told, and you're ministering to people through art. This actually, I find this one to be a fun one because this is one of our largest elementary grades, and there's kids not in this picture who are over in here, but I look ahead and think, boy, in like 3 years, our confirmation program grows again to a pretty nice size. Some things that are going to keep happening, we're in the process of furnishing the ed wing, so we have some older stuff in there now. We find that it was probably good to spend some time in the space to truly figure out, well, what do we need, what don't we need? So we have a couple tables that were a little too high. I even complain about them, and I'm 5'10", so there's 1 or 2 that are going to be shorter, but that's not that exciting. A lot of our facility now is all LED lighting. Bill Simmelink has just over the last 2 years just kind of gone through room after room after room putting in LED lighting, which helps our utility bills. LED will be in here, of course. And then at some point, this might be 2020, we will put an electric sign out at the corner down here, and then actually at the lower, down near the parking lot to capture traffic both direction. But the nice thing is we'll be able to change that sign, so we could say, well, join us for John Rutter's Requiem, or here's Christmas Eve services, or preschool sign up is starting now, or happy birthday, Pastor Ted, or whatever. So, and I think we miss an opportunity. We miss an opportunity to, reach to the community. At one point, the road, probably I don't know what the speed limit was when this church was built. It was probably 35, but traffic zooms along, but it also stops. So the backup in the morning is kind of a prime opportunity to spread the word. So Shepherd's Hall renovation, I expect we'll have confirmation we will, the third Sunday of May, and shortly thereafter, I would envision we release this room for the beginning of the construction, which we hope would take no longer than late July. It really is not that complex, because you're not talking moving pillars. It's much simpler than like the building of what we did 10 years ago. So let me just show you, I show this photo at every new member class too. I'm curious how many of you were actually here when this occurred. So only a few of you. How many of you joined in the 80s? Okay, well let's go 70s first. Well, Vonnie, you're the 60s, so we'll give you day one status there. And then how about 90s? Okay, and then we have some who are 2000 and beyond, and a few this year. So this was 1978, the day there was dedication Sunday. I don't know what time of year that actually was at this point, but obviously it wasn't snowing, but you get a sense of what 355, or it probably wasn't 355 at the time. But we've always referred to it as the Pizza Hut shaped original multi-purpose building. They expanded to this space, and the kitchen was actually the back part of the sanctuary, but they're processing into this space. We'll talk about the renovation. One of the things that hit me, and I mentioned the shepherd window in the sermon 2 weeks ago or so, and Phyllis reminded me of these windows on the side, which we tried to free up today a little bit. That those were very, very intentionally chosen, really to reflect the mission of the church and what had been important those first 12 years or so. And when you put something in the window, you say that's going to be central to who we are for a long time. So you can look at them later, but in a sense, the first window is and they all have hand signs in the bottom to reflect the deaf ministry that was present for a long time. First window is music. You can clearly see that one. The second one is essentially a window of outreach to the community and the world through service. The third one is all about word and sacrament. Weekly communion, so think about 1977 or so, not every church in this community was weekly communion. Good Shepherd by that point was already probably 2 years into weekly communion. Third one, the center one, is the gathering around the one in the middle is the liturgical seasons. Always reminding ourselves we gather because of the story of Jesus, and we tell and retell that and center our life around that. Fifth one is the Luther window. You can see the Wartburg Castle, I believe, or a mighty fortress, and some of you have been there recently. Sixth one is toward the back is about the Christian family and the raising of children. And the last one is kind of a really cool one. It shows like a test tube there, but it's about ministry and daily life. And I sit there and say that is a fantastic witness. And it's saying, I think that has remained who we are. And I think 40 years from now, when perhaps I'll be here, maybe not. Philip, I'm pretty confident Philip's going to be here. But I would love someone to be standing up and saying, well, 80 years ago, that was what we said we were going to stand for, and that's who Good Shepherd is in whatever, 40 plus 18, 20, 58.
When that was proposed, it was supposed to be wheat farmers.
Wheat farmers.
And I said, no, that's not this congregation.
Okay.
And I said, these are the people that left the Midwest and came here to work at the Bureau of Standards, NIH, whatever. Teach, nurses, 1 out of 5 people, women in the congregation, I think, were nurses.
Yeah. So I think in many ways Phyllis emailed this to me, and I thought, I had not. They've been obscured a lot in recent years because everything in here has sort of had to be out because of the way things are. But
It was my design to put the hands in.
Cool.
But they said it couldn't be done.
I should have let you be the guest on this one. Yeah.
They said it couldn't be done, and I don't like people to tell me that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, and
why not?
Yeah.
It's in class. Well, why not? You know.
so I think that I think that was showing the mission priority in this space, and this is really. We have art already. We have magnificent art for this space. So you're going to get. We're going to put the artistic renderings up in a moment. We have really nice ones that will go in the lobby. You'll see that come up in 2 weeks, and then we'll send out a brochure that you'll get this in the mail as well. So you'll see it all over the place. So this is essentially. Give you a kind of a glance from like back there as you came in the door. The idea would be to certainly brighten the space. We know no matter what, sound and lighting we need to get right from the get-go, because you know that's a barrier for some. I know some of you won't hear everything I'm saying. We know some don't come to Pastor Ted's class because they can't hear well enough. So we will make sure we get that right. We're not going to put orange carpet down or this carpet, which got in bad shape in a hurry. We're going to put a hard floor down, which means then you need to deal with it acoustically through sound panels. So these things actually here, which are the same places the screen is right now, are acoustic sound panels. And then these waves, these wavy things are called sound baffles that you'll see in certain places. But there would be enough sound panels throughout the room. In cases where it's drywall, you might not even notice them, but aesthetically pleasing, and kind of the wave reminds you of the movement of the Spirit, perhaps. These LED lightings step up to kind of follow the contour of the ceiling. So which and also it means the lumens will change based on the height, so it's an even down, so the evenness to it. I never had heard of this thing, but it's actually called 80-20, or they refer to it as 80-20 lighting, which means 80% down, 20% actually up toward the ceiling, which makes the ceiling brighter. So we might even think it's a whole new brand new ceiling, but the lighting in itself will make it lighter. But Ken has talked about cleaning the ceiling, maybe putting it, I think he called it linseed oil on it, but not changing it. Just a lot of the wood down in the education wing looks new, but it was just been cleaned up. Let's see. So the the windows stand for itself. This kind of illustrates so rather than having tables and chairs and all this stuff on the side, the idea is to create a wall that comes out from here that goes into the old sacristy, but essentially from like the doorway over here, whole way across to about here, in which all tables and chairs then can go into that space. Okay, so then we don't have clutter out here. You walk in the space, you've maximized the floor plan of what we have available. Romeo and Juliet balcony for if you want to play that. But aesthetically, that was actually the architects I thought did a really nice job, because this was where the organ pipes were. There's storage up there that about 2 of us have the ability to climb to get up there. It's a Navy ship ladder to get up there. So you really can't store much up there. So there would be an additional, you'll see it in a moment, an additional door like over in here where this tall cabinet is, that would be just for like staff. And then there would be a alternating step stairway that gets up to this area. behind the Romeo and Juliet balcony, so that like Francis could have Christian Ed stuff up there, or Mary Catherine could have youth stuff up there, and it's easier to get up and down as a result. So.
What are you going to do to make the floor safe?
Safe?
Yes.
I think that's one we have to keep making sure we get right too. I think traction is a key word that my wife, who's trained as an attorney, keeps lifting up. To make sure that whatever goes down has good traction. So I think that was one I came really on the radar for me last week when. So I'm using that word traction. I'm glad you voiced that too, because sometimes we have kids that use the space too. And thanks. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but traction is probably the right word to say. Let me give you another quick view. So from an acoustic standpoint, we've always been advised that as often as possible be teaching from over this direction. We're not showing actually any seating here because we've experienced for 10 years we can move to configure however we want. We've led worship in this space in a variety of ways. So acoustically, we just need to make sure we get it right. That's the dominant thing in my mind, is no matter what, we just got to get that right. So these are not set in 100% stone for sure, but you could have you could have projector over there. You could have a whiteboard if you want. Nothing is really permanent. Everything would be movable. So, lecterns can be moved. We can move an altar out. I think the sense is we would not put in a platform. But we would have a portable platform if we wanted to use one. So flexibility is such a key thing. So we can use it any way we want. But it kind of gives you, there's that other door that would go up to Romeo and Juliet. I'll call it some other balcony. I'll come up with another name. Story didn't end so well. But that is essentially your two, kind of two views of the room. A much bigger, a storage area so that nothing is out and can be pulled out as needed. And we would get new furnishing too, so it's not what you currently are sitting on for sure. But that's pretty much where we're at, is what I would say, is a work in progress. But we're early enough in the game that we can bid it out, so we can have competitive bids. We make some final decisions. But for me, I'm kind of excited. I think we're honoring the legacy of the church. We're trying to be faithful to the future as well. We hope people will resonate with what we're trying to do. You have questions? Yes, Ann.
Something that I have thought about all along is some way to backlight for nighttime from that window so that people see it coming down. I mean, you can see that there's a window there, but it's kind of hard to figure out what it is. And the beauty shines through when we've got the sunlight coming through there. That is such an awesome, inspirational type window that if there was just some way that we could backlight it so that the people coming down the highway can see that window, and maybe it would inspire them to, hey, that's pretty neat, let's stop here or something like that.
You might have a clarification, but did everyone hear that? Okay.
We explored that a long time ago. We're very much aware of its presence, but then we realized that for a variety of reasons, first of all, the amount of hardware we would need inside to light it, plus the interference from the trees, et cetera, really wouldn't be able to do what we were hoping anyway, so that's why it never happened. It's just the nature of that type of window, plus the other obstructions that don't make the window as present to the highway as we thought it might be and wanted it to be, and that's why it's not been done over the years, and probably isn't feasible really to be able to do it this
Yeah,
way.
we didn't really explore that, but yeah, I think you're right. It would be cool if it was. I don't know if we've never explored it beyond that. But I think the other thing that's different, well, in the last 10 years, is our steeple is so visible now when you're coming up 350 or coming south on 355, so it's more prominent than it used to be. I actually can see from 370, I can see the church, but it would be cool if it could be done.
The steeple's great, but that window
Yeah.
is just so awesome that it's a shame
Sure.
other people can't see it in the dark.
Yeah. John? Or?
No pun intended, but I'm asking why that design, an acoustical engineer came in here, looked at the ceiling and said that we put those wavy beams up there, it's going to greatly increase the acoustics.
Yeah, I guess they're used in a lot of places. I'm no expert at them, but they. What was that? I learned a few things. I learned about sprinklers last time, and I learned about sound baffles this construction project. But yeah, they say they're used in a lot of places that are live to help with the acoustics. If Ken were here, Ken would be able to help us a little further. So if I can buy ignorance to some level, and
In that storage area, extended to the old sacristy, what's the old sacristy being used for?
so the old sacristy right now is some Christian Ed storage at this point, but all that's going to be relocated. So like the cabinets are in there, we may repurpose for somewhere else in the facility, but essentially it's been a storage closet for 10 years.
It won't be used for the storage.
No. So we're creating some additional storage in room 205. Truthfully, there's enough things that you have accumulated over the years that don't need to remain at the church. Curriculum from the 1960s, as much as it might be nice, we're not going to use it, so give it a home somewhere. But yeah, so it goes, well, you've probably been in there before. It goes back quite a few feet, and there's an additional closet back there. But when you gut the whole thing and bring the wall out just a little bit.
Can you use the big lectern that was designed for this space?
The what?
The big lectern, the one that they climb up into?
Well, that's not real portable. We would keep this, I would say.
Are there any change plans that wall?
I'm sure it's cleaned up. In fact, the one thing I hope, that's a good point you brought. So this wall, I don't know what direction I'm facing, west, east, that way, would be, the idea would be to create a false wall there with drywall. So essentially everything else remains this gray brick, but because of this could be a focal teaching wall, drywall it, and then you could put, you probably put art there, you could put a screen there, but that would be the only thing where you'd really notice a major change to the brick facade. I don't know, you notice we still have a door here. People don't even realize what that was for, but that used to be the exit out of the sanctuary, but it was like $3,000 to remove it. We thought, nah, we'll save the $3,000 and just lock it. Who else had their hand? Pastor Ted, and then we'll go to Alan next.
Dave, I celebrate all of this, obviously, but I also cheered the additional storage. Because one of the things I would like to have as a teacher from time to time would be a whiteboard or a chalkboard.
Sure.
where rollers can be rolled into a storage area and have gotten out of sight. The worst thing about a classroom is to have it visually challenged with junk.
Yeah.
So that to have a clean environment makes it a better teaching environment. So I'm celebrating things that people don't think much about, all the storage.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Philip and I both go to the Lifetime gym that's over by the Rio, and they have a wonderful teaching environment in one of their classrooms that's somewhat what you're talking about. I think you want to protect the whiteboard, if you will, just so it maybe closes, so it doesn't get permanent stuff on there. But the other thing is just acoustically, the idea would be anything could be controlled by an iPad. So Philip could be in here adjusting sound or adjusting something on a screen via an iPad, which ultimately is the same thing we're going to try to do in the sanctuary. So Philip could actually be on the lower floor, saying in the back row, sitting in the back row where Pastor Ted normally sits, and saying the sound seems off down here, I want to adjust it. So, Alan.
What is the projected cost for this 2 or 3 month renovation?
I wish I knew off the top of my head. I want to say 120, 130. Now, the HVAC is not part of that. HVAC, even though it is a part of it, the HVAC we already committed to doing, and we're doing. We knew we were going to have to do it, but we were going to probably head into the winter with one of 6 units working. So, as of next week, we'll have 6 of 6 working. Let me just say something about the HVAC, and if I already said it, it's a sign of, just give me a senior moment. It'll be remote control that Vicki would be able to operate from anywhere. But as units fail in the education wing, we'll replace them with these kind of high energy efficient wall units that can tie into this remote control system. So the kind of from a long-term planning standpoint, all the education wing will fall under the same system. But it seems silly to take out of operation a unit that's still functioning. It seems like, well, stewardship-wise, not mess with that. So, did you have something, Warren? Or Maggie, I'm sorry.
You said something about drywalling that wall and the rest of the brick. Are you going to paint the brick to make it nice and light like that picture? Or is it going to stay
dingy. I don't know whether it's the plan was to keep it as is. I don't know whether that means if there's a way to clean it, just so the surface is a little bit cleaner. I don't know if there's such a thing as interior, the stuff you do to your deck. Power, I don't know if there's a way to power wash or.
Well, the picture looks so nice and bright. We noticed, we painted our fireplace, and it just makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
I think the lighting will help them.
Yeah. It will be, I do wonder if just having it be so much lighter will sort of almost change the look. Because, this area here, over here gets really dark. I think you'll notice a huge difference, especially underneath the beams behind the pillars. So I'm at the half-hour mark. Are we, you want more or less, or send me off to pasture?
We were talking yesterday, among a few of us, the question of future parking came up. How does that fit into your longer range plans?
So the question was parking.
Yeah, and along on for the facility that you have, what your congregation hope to have.
Some of, how do I answer this? I think to some level, if the church were to continue to grow, we'd probably need to pay attention to worship time, and we might have to add something. So you adjust the parking via times to some level. But the other thing is just continuing to hammer away at those who can walk. My friend Nathan, one of the things he said is line of sight to the front door is pretty important. So a lot of parking is emotional for people. If you think about it, and I know who I'm talking to, so Okay. So, and I know you are the people we want to be as close to the front as we can for the most part. You know, we have parking here, some on the side. We have down here at the school. We have this parking lot, which in many ways is the best parking to have.
Very fortunate to
Yeah.
have that.
I don't want to encourage people to go across the street, but we have also about 100 spots on the other side of the Casey building. So it's a matter of almost having just a one-on-one with people saying, you can help us grow the mission by arriving 5 minutes earlier and parking further away. It means a huge amount. So I'll probably beg the choir, as many choir people as possible on the 4th, to say, don't park in this lot, don't park in this lot. You know, think of, if you need to. Go down to the school, it's a quarter block away. If we can get more people to buy into parking further away, it will help.
We were talking yesterday that it may have a big influence on possible new members coming in, not being familiar with the physical facility.
Yeah.
Finding it difficult.
Yeah, we may have to have some people outside in the future to help with that. Or you know, portable signs, you know, outside just temporarily on Sunday morning to extend. You know, that's a hospitality issue, is really. But as always, we want people who need to park close to be able to park close. But you know, I think it's getting people to think, I help the mission grow if I can park further away. Valet, yeah. Yeah, could be. Youth Sunday. So, you know, I mean, I'll hang out if you have any questions. I know you probably have a business meeting too.
Very short, but I won't.
It is, you know, I think the whole idea though of beginning with a sense of gratitude. I mean, I think we have many opportunities as a congregation. I mean, I look ahead, and one of the things I would love to do is I would love to do this, get it all done, keep growing as a congregation, then wipe out that debt as soon as we can. Because if you think if we wipe out that debt, this congregation could be one of the most generous congregations on the East Coast if we actually do that in the next 10 years or so. But again, I think it's important to remember those who have brought you to this point, and the first 35 years of the congregation were incredibly blessed, and I think a lot of times we're just continuing in the same spirit and in new times. But anyway, it would be interesting if we had an aerial view of 1965. That'd be kind of fun, because all you'd see is farm, I think.
Are we replacing all of the furniture in here? Like all the tables and chairs?
Yeah, I think, the plan would be to get new tables and chairs and things that are lighter, but, because anyway, all these things now are they can make them sturdy and light and durable, but they're a fraction of the weight. Because some of these, we have some in the basement that are like 50-pound tables that I struggle to lift. Thank you.